Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Poland faces a diplomatic dilemma as President Karol Nawrocki backs Donald Trump's proposed Board of Peace, while Prime Minister Donald Tusk urges caution and a parliamentary oversight. With legal, political and geopolitical stakes rising, we're joined by Professor Aleks Szczerbiak of the University of Sussex to assess Poland's choices today, right now. Professor, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks. It's my pleasure to be with you.
So, President Trump's Board of Peace. Tell us briefly what that's about, please.
Yes, so it's basically Mr. Trump's move to create a body that that kind of sidelines the existing multilateral institutions. I mean, I think it was originally set up as a board that was going to oversee the Gaza peace settlement, but I think he has a much broader vision of it, and it's based on the idea, I think, that that bodies like the UN are a kind of a spent force, and that he really wants to kind of bypass these and create something where he can work with who he sees as the key players and the people he wants to work with, his kind of key allies, one of which, of course, is Polish President Karol Nawrocki.
Indeed, I'll come to the Polish situation in just a second. So we're talking to something that's running in parallel to the United Nations, perhaps undermining the role of the United Nations in activities such as this. And of course, President Trump will be the chair of this body for life, irrespective of whether he's president or not. Now, he's invited 60 leaders from around the world, but the take-up has been mixed, hasn't it?
Well, yes, that's right. Because, as I say, there are world leaders who do feel that the existing multilateral institutions, particularly the UN, are the way that the international diplomacy should be conducted. So, you know, they are very reluctant to go down this road. And there's other countries that are sort of weighing up their options, or where there's you know, as in the Polish case, there's actually a constitutional difficulty in joining. So I think that's the problem. I think that, you know, it does highlight the difference between those countries that really want to work through the existing international order, give it a chance, work through those current multinational institutions, and those who share Mr. Trump's analysis and really think that, you know, a more direct relationship with the US president is the way to go.
Indeed, and one of those countries would be Hungary, who's jumped at the chance of being a member of this Board of Peace. But Poland has refrained from giving a firm response. Talk us through why that is.
Well, I think that this really highlights it's a sort of a flashpoint in the continuing hostile cohabitation, if you like, the difficult relationship that there is between President Karol Nawrocki and the government led by Donald Tusk. I mean, these are, you know, bitter political enemies, and I think that the dispute over whether to join this body or not kind of brings that into the fore. I mean, first of all, you see Donald Trump directly inviting Karol Nawrocki, you know, over the head of the Polish government. So he's somebody who feels very ideologically close to, he sees as a very close ally, so sort of sidelining the Polish government. Then you've got the government responding with a kind of a counter response by saying that because this involves joining an international organization, that decision has to be taken by the Polish parliament. So you can't kind of sideline the Polish government. So it's part of a bigger dispute between the president and the government, of which foreign policy is a particular aspect of this. The government really sees the president as the kind of the government spokesman on the international stage. Mr. Nawrocki sees himself as operating as a much more autonomous actor, and sees the direct relationship that he has with Mr. Trump as a very good opportunity to demonstrate this. And I think this dispute over whether Poland should join the peace board, the council, highlights this very, very nicely.
Right. So as you say, President Trump invited President Nawrocki directly, but President Nawrocki simply doesn't have the authority to sign on the dotted line. How does that affect the relationship between those two presidents?
Actually, I think it's. I mean, you're absolutely right. Constitutionally, he doesn't have that that power, and he's acknowledged that. I mean, although he argues with the government over lots of things, he's not trying to claim that he can actually bypass that and join the board. But actually, it's kind of worked out okay, really. I think for him and probably for sort of Polish-US relations, because the fact that the government can effectively block, veto, if you like, or at least prevent in the short term him from joining this body. It's kind of not his fault, really, he can say. And so he's indicated a willingness to participate. He has, he joined the inaugural session. And Mr. Trump, doesn't seem to be bearing him a grudge particularly. He actually used the inauguration of the body to as an opportunity to praise Mr. Nawrocki. He's praised him again, kind of leaving Davos. So actually, although it's potentially quite problematic for Poland, the fact that you've got these two centres of power squabbling over foreign policy, in this particular instance, it's kind of worked out okay because Mr. Nawrocki's been able to maintain a positive relationship with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump doesn't seem to bear him a grudge, but the Polish government has actually got what it's wanted, which is for Mr. Nawrocki not to join this body, or at least not without its consent. So paradoxically, although it's a messy situation, it seems to have ended up okay.
So that sounds like a good cop, bad cop situation, with President Nawrocki being the good cop and maintaining a relationship with President Trump, while Prime Minister Tusk can say, well, I need parliamentary authority and so on. Do you think that's the game plan?
Well, whether it's a plan or not, this is how it seems to be working out. Because what both leaders know, what Mr. Tusk and Mr. Nawrocki know, is that, whatever their personal agendas, however much they want to undermine each other, however much they want to, compete over who should have what say over domestic and foreign policy, the Polish public feels very strongly that they should work together over particular issues, and one of those is Polish national security. So they're kind of, whatever their personal views are, they're kind of obliged to at least be seen to be working together on this, which is why they're having to kind of suspend hostilities on this. And what this is meaning is that you've de facto, whether it's planned or not, whether it's formal or not, I suspect probably not, you've actually got quite a good division of labour working out, the kind of the good cop, bad cop relationship that you were talking about. You've got Mr. Nawrocki able to maintain good relations because of that personal chemistry, the ideological closeness that he's got with Mr. Trump. Then you've also got Mr. Tusk, who's maintaining relations with the EU political establishment, the kind of European mainstream, if you like, the major EU powers, who are more wedded to the kind of the multilateral institutions like the UN, and with whom Mr. Nawrocki doesn't have particularly good relations. So this seems to be, although it's not necessarily the plan, this workable division of labour working out quite nicely. But as I say, it's really forced by the fact that the Polish public wants to see them cooperate on issues of national security. And they are both responding to this. So
a foot in both camps, it would seem. But quite apart from Poland's commitment to the multilateral international bodies, what about the fact that both Russia and Belarus have been invited to join the Board of Peace, and with President Lukashenko, accepting that invitation? How much is that playing into Prime Minister Tusk's calculus?
Yes, and he's obviously using that argument as one of the things that's problematic about the Board of Peace, and it is quite tricky, and it does make it difficult for supporters of Poland being involved in that. I think the counter argument to that is that the way that the UN works at the moment, it's currently constructed where countries that don't obey diplomatic norms or even international law norms like Russia actually have a very substantial say in this. I mean, one of the arguments that people like Mr. Nawrocki and his party, Law and Justice, use is that the problem with international law and the international bodies, the way they're constructed at the moment, is that a lot of actors don't actually obey international law, including those who are part of bodies that are meant to maintain it. Therefore, their argument is it's much better for Poland to seek a direct relationship with the United States. This is the best way, they feel, for Poland to guarantee its security. And in some cases, that means a direct relationship with Mr. Trump himself. So, I mean, that's the counter argument. That yes, this is a body that does involve people that are clearly, in a hostile relationship with Poland and threaten its military security, but so do existing multilateral bodies. And the best way forward is actually to work very closely with Mr. Trump, form a direct relationship with him, and look for a bilateral or through transatlantic alliance way of maintaining Poland's military security, rather than relying on these rather, as they would say, hopeless existing multilateral bodies.
Well, that's as may be, Professor, but, Poland's relationship with Trump has always been quite strong. However, that doesn't guarantee that American forces will continue to remain in Poland, or that there will be, other equipment provided by the United States. I mean, President Trump has kind of blown hot and cold on these questions, despite having that direct relationship.
Well, I think that in terms of his relationship with Poland and its military security, he has been kind of reasonably clear. I mean, he got a commitment from Karol Nawrocki when he visited him in Washington to maintain the US military presence in Poland. Indeed, when his national security strategy was released, he actually, although very, very critical of most European powers, he singled out countries like Poland and saying, well, these are the countries that contribute to the alliance. They kind of pay their way, and therefore they're people that we will have a commitment to. I think the other problem is that I think a lot of Poles, I mean, whatever they think about Donald Trump, I mean, people have different views of Donald Trump. He's very controversial. Whatever their views are of Donald Trump, I think they just don't currently see any alternative to the United States as a military security ally. The idea, for example, that the EU could develop a separate defence identity, which could provide some sort of alternative to the US in the future, I think people simply see that as pie in the sky, which is why people like the current government, the Tusk administration, are very wary about pushing that as an alternative, because they know that most Poles don't think there is any mileage in that. So that's the problem. Whatever you might think of Mr. Trump, most Poles currently just don't see any viable alternative to the United States as a military security ally.
Understood. Professor Szczerbiak, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. News coming right up. Bye for now.